After the silver that was discovered in the New World plummeted global prices, the town of Glashütte, which had been entirely economically reliant on its mining for over 200 years, collapsed. And strife, like a shadow with a sort of sick sense of humor, followed this little place for the next 150. Poverty, war, and catastrophic fire seemed to eat this and other surrounding villages alive. And then, in 1845, a watchmaker in Dresden called Ferdinand Adolf Lange answered the government's call for aid in rebuilding the region. He was given funding, a loan actually, to teach its people a trade. And he did. He turned shambles into craft, impoverished men and women into watchmakers. He built his own brand, yes, but he restored hope and pride to this side of Saxony. Then, as if it had an axe to grind with these humble people, that shadow returned. Political unrest gave way to not only national but global havoc. Glashütte among the casualties destroyed by bombs. After the war, when the industry rebuilt, the brands that had been broken consolidated under one roof called GUB. And for decades in communist East Germany, they produced watches that worked, but their souls completely stripped. There was a darkness about the era, and the world of horology was certainly not immune, until, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and freedom rushed in. Opportunity returned to Glashütte. The first brave enough to seize it was former photographer and IT specialist Roland Schwertner. His brand, Nomos, which he ran with 3 watchmakers in a little home in the hills, became the first watchmaking house in Glashütte after German reunification. Their first collection launched just a year later in 1991. Following suit, Walter Lange, the great-grandson of the man that saved the city so many years ago, restored his family house. A great house that, just 6 years after the release of their first collection, was absorbed by Swiss conglomerate Richest, leaving Nomos most certainly the true guardian of Glashütte. Nomos is a client and friend. We've produced commercials on their behalf for years, and any chance I get, I recommend their watches. Yet, until now, I had not visited their home. After 2 days of poking around the workshops, asking the occasional question, but mostly listening, I met with one of Nomos's project engineers, Nicholas Greats, who showed me around Dresden on Tuesday night. It's a beautiful place, more German than Berlin, he'd tell me. You can see the dark cloud that looms over this city in its sandstone, which had been blackened by decades of coal and times of fire that once burned at 1800 degrees. But its soul is alive and well. It's filled with students and businesses and families and, of course, watchmakers that enjoy the 36-minute drive down to the valley, which can be done in 30 in the early part of the morning. On Thursday, I asked Nicholas to sit down for an interview.
Every shop you see in Glashütte is related to watches and to clocks, because there's such a rich history and there are so many different watch brands in Glashütte. And even if you try not to look at watches being here, I don't know why you would try it, but you fail, you will fail. You got Glashütte, and then the next biggest or best thing is Switzerland. So those are the 2 main spots for watchmaking in Europe. And that's something we can be very proud of. Well, Nomos is one of the very few watch brands still in existence that are family-owned. We are awarded with multiple design prizes, and we have a really, really deep production we do ourselves, up to 95%. And it's all the stuff we constructed, made, handcrafted ourselves, and all that stuff is put into your wristwatch.
It's easy for a young American to forget that there is an East Germany, that there are people in the Western industrial first world that remember the pain of communism, that were held back for so long and then left behind in the woods after unification. Here, the aging population struggled. They were unable to support even their local church and train station, so both of which were abandoned. But now that these same people have been a part of success, have carved out their place in the world, have rebuilt their station and restored their church, you can understand their reluctance to give even an inch back. You can understand why the word independence means so much, especially in an industry where it's so scarce. On Wednesday, I visited their chronometry, where Roland Schwertner started Nomos back in 1990. It's now the home to a team of 80, who arrive at their desks and benches at 6 a.m. to avoid the heat of a short summer, where they might even hear the bees of a local honey farmer, pick berries in the garden over lunch, and leave for home by 2 or 3. It's the home of their research and development department. It's the home of the swing system, their declaration of independence from the Swiss conglomerates.
A development like this hasn't been seen before or for many decades, because all the other biggest or big watch brands, they rely on different manufacturers of calibers, or they exchange them within their big parent companies.
Like a postgrad living in the West Village on mom and dad's dime, Nomos couldn't truly be free while relying on the giants for the heartbeat of their watches. So, in 2014, after 7 years, 11 million euros, and countless computer simulations in partnership with the University of Dresden, they announced their own, which they now inspect with a high-speed camera, taking 1,000 pictures per second to ensure accuracy. I sat down with Nomos CEO and local Glashütte vice mayor Uwe Arendt, who joined the company 20 years ago on Friday afternoon after lunch.
Ja, ich bin ein Glashütte Original, wie man so schön sagt. Wie gesagt, hier geboren und aufgewachsen. In Glashütte existiert so das Uhrengehen. Es wird so von Familie, von Generation zu Generation weitergegeben. Also mein Papa ist Uhrmacher, mein Opa ist Uhrmacher, mein Urgroßvater war Uhrmacher. Das ist einfach ein wahnsinnig toller Job, eine wahnsinnig schöne Arbeit oder Hobby. Vermischt sich so alles miteinander, weil eine Glashütte hat der Ort hat so einen Anspruch, man will nicht einfach nur das tun, was so notwendig ist, sondern man will es auch wirklich richtig verstehen und dann bis zu Ende machen. Und dann gehört irgendwie an diesem Punkt auch dazu, dass man dann so ein Assortiment oder so ein Swing-System versteht, wie das funktioniert. Also einerseits das Know-how, also die ganze Verständnis, und andererseits auch die Technologie, wie stellt man das her. Und für uns ist es jetzt wahnsinnig wichtig, weil wir damit jetzt, wie der Spiegel mal so schrieb, technologisch unabhängig sind. Also wir können jetzt wachsen und Entscheidungen treffen, die wir selber im Haus treffen können, wo wir also komplett unabhängig von Lieferanten sind. Und dafür ist es für uns wichtig. Und wir sind, ich glaube, es gibt nicht weniger wie meine 2 Hände Firmen weltweit, die also da so ein Swing-System, wie wir es haben, auch beherrschen. Und das ist schon eine tolle Leistung für doch das relativ kleine, überschaubare Nomos.
Nomos is a kind brand, almost happy-go-lucky. So it's hard to understand the magnitude of their operation or the importance of its existence. They are the largest German manufacturer of mechanical watches, a fully independent house. Their kind, sort of schoolboy innocence should never be mistaken for weakness. Perseverance is in their bones. This town just persists. It seems to exist at this point as a sort of matter of principle, much like the condemned church up the hill and the train station down below. Nomos refuses to let go of the dream that is Glashütte.
There is no place I'd rather be than right here next to you. And I truly love to talk about your lovers, old and new. You never spare me details as you confide in me. I smile and give advice, but cannot tell